Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking a look at the top 10 best Star Wars games. These are all games that I've played, and I think each one of them represents a unique Star Wars experience.
Number 10.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
If you've seen my channel before, you probably know that I think that characters like Boba Fett and the Mandalorian are awesome. So it was actually quite fun to revisit this game earlier this year. You control Jango Fett in a third-person adventure that takes place before the events of Episode 2. Gameplay consists of taking out large waves of enemies with your blasters and even a flamethrower as you navigate various locales in the galaxy with your trusty jetpack. Naturally, there's also a bounty hunting component to the game, as you can capture certain targets for an in-game reward. The environments are somewhat sparse but interesting to look at, and the difficulty level starts ramping up quickly once you get past the first couple levels. The gameplay can be a bit hit or miss, as there are occasional odd level design choices and wonky platforming, but the cutscenes make it absolutely worth it, as they feature the voice and likeness of Temuera Morrison, Jango, and Boba himself. While the guy who voices this intimidating villain also voices Mr. Krabs?
Number 9.
Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
As Anakin would say, now this is pod racing. But for real though, this is a racing game designed entirely around the astounding pod racing sequence from Star Wars Episode 1, and it's been remastered, so now you can experience the game with a fresh coat of paint and a modern control scheme. I remember playing this game for the first time on the Nintendo 64 with my brother, and we were both blown away by how screen accurate everything was. From the layout of the Boonta Eve Classic featured in the film, to all the different pod racers, to the competitors like Sebulba and Quadraneros, to the incredible soundtrack and sound effects from the film. Not only that, the speed conveyed in the game truly is excellent, and it's still a fun racing game, even if you'd remove the Star Wars license. No, not that license, the Star Wars IP license.
Number 8.
Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
The unique thing about Shadows of the Empire is that it was a big multimedia project meant to reinvigorate interest in the Star Wars franchise that paid off big time. The concept was, what if we release everything surrounding a new Star Wars movie except an actual movie? And that yielded Shadows of the Empire. You got the comic, the toys, the novel, and of course, the video game on the Nintendo 64 that was eventually ported to PC. You star as Dash Rendar, the not Han Solo character, as Han was busy being frozen in carbonite at this point in the timeline. The game delivered on probably one of the most amazing versions of the Battle of Hoth, as well as lengthy levels that would end in an epic boss battle, including an AT-ST, IG-88, and Boba Fett himself. At the time, the swoop bike chase level was also second to none, and I still remember so much of the game to this day.
Number 7.
Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader.
From the mission design, to the controls, to the incredibly faithful look of each of the levels in the game, this is pretty much a Star Wars space battle simulator. Not only that, but when this game released, the graphics were absolutely cutting edge stuff. Whether you're piloting in first person perspective or in third, the action is incredibly fun and absolutely relentless. And what makes it even better is that you partake in legendary battles across the franchise, including the trench run on the Death Star and the ever-present Battle of Hoth. Factor 5, the developer, later went on to make an inferior version of the game with nearly identical mechanics, but this time with dragons instead of spaceships called Lair, and the less said about the game the better. It had such promise though. I mean, we're talking about fire-breathing dragons here.
Number 6.
Star Wars Battlefront 2.
After charging us for a full game and then giving us half a game with the 2015 Battlefront, Battlefront 2 had some pretty big hurdles to overcome. And for the most part, it did so quite nicely. The game returns with a compelling single-player campaign through the perspective of Iden Versio, a member of the Empire's Inferno Squad that defects quicker than you can say she defected already. Seriously though, the story's interesting, and it lets you know what certain characters were up to after Episode 6. The gameplay is very entertaining, and it serves as a good introduction to the game's robust multiplayer mode that lets you recreate virtually any battle scenario you have in mind. And best of all, Battlefront 2 incorporates the prequel era, letting you control characters like young Obi-Wan, General Grievous, and the totally awesome Droidekas. These roly-polies of doom are ridiculously fun to control in battle and are capable of absolutely wrecking an online match if you know what you're doing, as you can see in my brother's Droideka video, available in the description below. And I haven't even touched on the space battles, which are very reminiscent of the heights achieved by Rogue Leader. Despite a few hiccups with its in-game currency and loot boxes early on in its release, Battlefront 2 shaped up to be an incredible Star Wars game.
Number 5.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
This game takes place after Star Wars Episode 3 when surviving Jedi are in hiding. And just for fun, I played it with a Mandalorian mod. The game's attention to detail and Star Wars lore is astounding, as well as its presentation and graphics. The platforming is also well done and a fun change of pace. I enjoyed the various sections of the game dedicated to that. There's even an incredible sliding sequence that was absolutely thrilling to play. The story itself is also interesting and filled to the brim with great voice acting, twists and turns, and cutscenes that I very much looked forward to watching. It's got fantastic cameos too, which I won't spoil here, and the levels are connected to Rogue One as well as the Clone Wars animated series. The original characters created for the game were all welcome additions too, and the game is packed with epic moments that stay with you. That being said, the combat system and level design were both a mixed bag for me. While the combat animation itself was stellar, the lightsaber felt too heavy during gameplay and wasn't very satisfying. I understand that I want it to be more like a Soulsborne game, but I don't think Star Wars really needed that. The level design after the halfway point of the game starts clicking and making sense, but the first couple of planets seemed positively maze-like and confusing. Most puzzles were also fun and harmless, but there was one involving manipulating giant boulders that gave me legit water temple flashbacks.
Number 4.
Star Wars: The Force Unleashed.
As the subtitle of this game would indicate, The Force Unleashed is the ultimate power fantasy in Star Wars. What if you were Vader's apprentice, and you were so gifted with the Force that you were able to literally bring down Star Destroyers? That's the central conceit in The Force Unleashed, and the game delivers on virtually every cool scenario you could think of with that level of power. The story connects perfectly well within the original canon of the 6 films too, and it gives an explanation behind the Rebel symbol and even the Rebel Uprising itself. The combat is fast and ferocious. The sequel is also super fun, and I would have absolutely ranked it as well, but I felt the first one had a more memorable story to it. That being said, the second one had some memorable cutscenes too, featuring Boba Fett talking to Vader, as well as Yoda, an adult from the same species as a certain adorable baby. Seriously, just look at that little guy.
Number 3.
Star Wars: Republic Commando.
In Republic Commando, you play as RC-1138, or boss of the Lethal Delta Squad, an elite group of clone commandos in charge of the Republic's most dangerous missions. The game is a tactical first-person shooter, key being tactical. Although you will destroy an insane amount of droids all by yourself, you're still in charge of issuing orders to your extremely capable teammates. Whether it's planting charges, setting up a sniper position, or even refilling their health, they need you to give the order. At the same time, they're quite capable of acting on their own, and can even revive you in a firefight. The voice work in the game is also top-notch, with Tamura Morrison voicing the lead player character, Boss. What's excellent too are the contextual lines within the game.
Good shot.
Your marksmanship is an inspiration to us all, sir.
Squad leader, solid shot. He's with grenades. Very impressive, 3-8.
Droids incoming.
Textbook takedown, sir.
Wouldn't you want to lead a unit that regards you that highly? I've been showing footage of the remastered edition, available on consoles like the PS4 and PS5. Republic Commando excels in planting you within the Star Wars world. For example, the first part of the game takes place during the Battle of Geonosis, the very same battle that starts in Star Wars Episode 2. The control scheme can also be remapped, in case you liked something more similar to modern day shooters. In short, Delta Squad is the original elite clone trooper unit, way before the Bad Batch, and this game is a shining example of what can be achieved with the Star Wars license. Not again.
Number 2.
Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars film, and this game does a superb job of not only adapting the film, but making it one of the best Star Wars games ever made. And why does it rank so highly on the list? First and foremost, it's directly based on one of the films, and succeeds admirably in translating that story into video game format. The campaign takes you through the events of Episode 3 from the viewpoint of Anakin and Obi-Wan. The lightsaber combat is also one of the fastest and most complex systems ever created in Star Wars video games, with an elaborate system of attacks, combos, and parries at your disposal. It's packed with additional content, letting you control characters like Darth Vader, Yoda, and even General Grievous. The gameplay still holds up to this day, and remains just as fun as it was in 2005.
Honorable mention.
Super Star Wars.
Back in the 16-bit days, developers had it tough in adapting blockbuster films, but this side-scroller is a great example of one that got it just right. You mainly play through the events of the film as Luke Skywalker, and inspired by the film, as I don't remember him fighting a mutant womp rat.
Number 1.
Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
The quintessential Star Wars RPG experience that remains to be topped to this very day. There's a reason it was ported to the Switch after all, and it's getting a full-fledged remake too. So if you're in the mood for playing a sci-fi RPG from the very same developer that made the seminal Mass Effect series, you are in for a treat. I'd like to thank each one of my Patreon members as their contribution helped in the making of this video. If you'd like to contribute and appear in the credits in the future, my Patreon page is Godzilla Rex and it's in the description below. Thanks for watching. Which is your favorite Star Wars video game? Let me know in the comments below, make sure to subscribe for more awesome videos, and see you next time.